First of all, good news. Stock on these is significantly higher than the prior trophy rooms. Yes, you actually have somewhat of a decent chance at getting these. We'll discuss precise numbers later. Evidently, today we're going to be discussing the Jordan 1 Trophy Room away. Specifically, we'll be discussing whether you should sell or hold Jordan 1 Trophy Room and why that is. For early information beyond just stock numbers, like the time and day when Nike sneakers shock drops occur, the fastest monitors, and so much more to help you get limited items like these, or even more than just sneakers like concert tickets, collectibles, and more, scan the QR code on the screen. Oh, and we have completely free guides on that same link too, and a method to get free Chick-fil-A meals, so why not check it out? For those who don't know, the Jordan 1 Trophy Room away releases on March 21st on Nike sneakers tomorrow, and there's a pretty solid amount of stock. Retail is $140, leaving plenty of room for huge profit. In order to determine if the Jordan 1 Trophy Room away will be a fruitful hold, we will cover an estimated range of what the sneaker will settle at after the drop, and also when shipments come in, essentially the pairs going into circulation, whether they're expected to increase post-drop or even hypothetically continue to decrease, along with how much specifically over specific periods of time, and finally, what type of margin are we looking at for these in terms of holding? Not the retail to resell initial margin, but rather just the hold margin over X period of time. Basically, even if these do go up, are they going to be worth your time? Kicking it off, let's discuss the estimated range that these should be settling at. To begin with, stock for these is low in general for Jordan, but actually very high compared to the prior Trophy Room Jordan 1 and even many collabs in general. To be exact, over 32,000 pairs will be dropping on Nike sneakers tomorrow. To put this into perspective, only 200 pairs dropped via exclusive access on Nike sneakers back in 2021 for the first Trophy Room Jordan 1. As for demand, it is also significantly above average, to no one's surprise. Not only is there a lot of hype for Trophy Room Jordan 1s in general coming off the prior pair, but this is a Chicago colorway which in itself carries a lot of demand. Sale volume just from the in-store pairs already in circulation is insane, despite the value being quite high at over $400. At the moment, the day before the drop, the current average is $465 for sizes 8 to 12. This still leaves plenty of room for huge profit with an incredible margin on every single size, obviously full throttle. Bigger sizes, 11 and above, will still be the best of course, but I would actually suggest staying conservative and going for smaller sizes just so you have a better chance at least getting something, because they'll all be profitable. We normally see a notable change in value post-drop. This is when we normally experience what I like to refer to as the impulsivity effect. Guess you know what I'm referring to by now. We discuss this very frequently, yet it almost always occurs to some degree. Regarding the impulsivity effect, if you haven't seen my seller hold videos before, sneaker drops specifically impact human impulsiveness significantly after an individual fails to acquire that desired product due to insufficient supply and too much demand. Therefore, on average, we normally see about a 5 to 10% increase of the pre-drop prices post-drop. When it comes to these, I think it is very probable that we do see a positive impulsivity effect, but only around 5% rather than the full 10%. Normally, with values this high pre-drop, especially for collab pairs, we would actually see a drop in value post-drop. But since there's a lot of pairs already in circulation from the in-store release driving prices down, I definitely do think that there is room for a minor increase post-drop. This would hypothetically leave prices at $488 on average, meaning that some large sizes could be well over $500. So now let's discuss what prices will look like once shipments go out in the 1 to 2 week range. During this period, the vast majority of pairs will now be going into circulation. Despite this temporary increase, as usual, I would expect a typical 10% decrease in value post-drop as the pairs all go into circulation from the shipments. Stock on them is certainly high enough at 32,000 additional pairs going into circulation. This could potentially bring the average price right back down to a trough of $439, below what we're seeing right now. But now that the average price range at those points in time are evident, let's discuss whether they're expected to increase from this post-shipment price or even continue to decrease. After looking at the prior Jordan 1 Trophy Room, we could see from their initial drop they have plummeted in value. Now, of course, some macro factors were at play, but I'd argue it was more than just macro because it's so significant. Despite these being very limited, I think they were certainly overvalued at the start. I suspect that these new Trophy Room Jordan 1 lows might be too, despite their starting value being much lower, considering their stock is much higher. With that said, I would not be surprised if they actually continue to decrease in value or at least plateau for quite a while. Granted, it is a trophy room collab and it is a Chicago colorway, so they should eventually age well, but I would first expect at least a year of no gains because of the fact that these are probably overvalued, just like the first pair was. Finally, regarding the hold margin on these, essentially, are these actually worth your time, even if they do eventually increase? Obviously, if they don't increase for the first year, there won't be any positive ROI, but hypothetically, if they do, with a starting value so high at $488 post-drop being their potential peak, you'd need a pretty substantial increase to see a solid ROI. Hypothetically, if they were to increase to, say, $550, that would only be about a 12% ROI, which is just slightly above average gains of an index fund. Of course, it's possible they increase more than that, but you get the idea. It would take a large gain just to see a decent ROI on these, and I'm not so optimistic we'll even see that. Hence, I would rate these below average at 3 out of 10. Despite it being a super hyped collab, a Chicago colorway, and having tons of hype, I think the bigger factor is simply that they're overvalued, perhaps particularly for those reasons. Personally, I'll be wearing my pair if I cop, but if it's not my size, I'll probably sell it as soon as possible. Also, just a note in general, for anyone considering holding any items who do have low capital, you should never hold anything in general. If you don't have sufficient capital, you go for as many drops as possible at your full potential without holding back. If you need money to go for all drops, always try to sell as soon as possible. Let me know what you guys are doing with your pairs in the comments below. Since this is a discussion at the end of the day, I can't predict the future. This is just my personal analysis based on the data that I've acknowledged. We have a lot of brilliant minds watching now, so I implore you to please leave your notions below. Also, be sure to check out Endurance with the link in the description below if you're looking for a profitable side hustle that goes far beyond just sneaker reselling, or if you want early info for some of the upcoming shock drops. Remember, we also have free sneaker guides and Chick-fil-A on that same link, so why not check it out? With that though, have a fantastic rest of your day. Congrats if you copped, or good luck if you're watching this before the drop.